Hello YouTube community, this is the Watch Scholar returning with a new video Rolex the introduction of the Daytona. So, let's get started. Let me briefly introduce the Rolex brand before we move on to the subject of Daytona. One of the most reputable and successful manufacturers of high-end mechanical timepieces in the world, Rolex was established in London in 1905, registered as a trademark in 1908, and changed its name to Rolex Watch Company Limited in 1950. What is Chronograph Daytona? Chronograph by Rolex, the mechanical Daytona chronograph wristwatch measures elapsed time and computes average speed to match the demands of racing drivers. Its name is a nod to the Florida city of Daytona, where racing was very popular in the early 20th century. The Rolex Daytona was influenced by motorsport enthusiasts and drivers, including famous actor Paul Newman, who is said to have worn his Daytona every day after receiving one as a gift from his wife. For the 1972 book Paul Newman was shown wearing it in this way. He generally wore it on a leather military strap. Rolex has been producing it in 3 distinct generations, or series, since 1963. The second series was introduced in 1988, and the third in 2000. While the first and second series were cosmetically similar, the second series introduced a self-winding movement, the first series is hand-wound, and the third series brought movement manufacture in-house to Rolex. The Chronograph Daytona has grown to be one of the most sought-after watches in the entire globe. Paul Newman's Daytona held the record for the most expensive watch ever sold at auction for a number of years, and new models are nearly impossible to find without signing up for a lengthy wait list. Vintage references consistently exceed auction company expectations. Now I will go over the 3 Daytona Chronograph series in brief. Original series. The original series had a 4-digit model, or reference number, and a manual wind movement, and was produced in small quantities from around 1963 to the late 1980s. These first versions with 4-digit model numbers are the rarest of the Daytonas. Original series Daytonas had subdials in a single color that was different from the color of the main dial for aesthetic reasons. Eric Clapton was the owner of the first albino Daytona known to exist. Second series. In order to accommodate demand, the second season of this original series was produced in the early 1990s. The second series makes use of an altered automatic winding mechanism. The case diameter of the second series Daytonas increased from 37mm to 40mm. The dials were glossier, and the subdials were now primarily the same color as the dial, with an outer track and a contrasting color. These later series Daytonas, which were made in small numbers between 1988 and 2000 and predated in-house movements, were accurate and dependable. 2 second series Daytonas were sold with leather straps. Third series. The third series was released in 2000 and contains a 6-digit model number and a Rolex movement. The 6-digit Daytonas are self-winding chronometers with chronograph features that have received certification. Since 1991, Rolex has sponsored the 24 Hours of Daytona sports car race, also known as the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and has given the event the name of its chronograph watch. Due to the Daytona's restricted annual manufacturing, stainless steel versions of the watch are still quite hard to find, and a waiting list for potential buyers of new watches exists. Let me now elaborate on the Paul Newman dial. The most uncommon Daytonas have what has been referred to as the exotic or Paul Newman dial. When Newman began competing in motor races in 1972, his wife Joanne Woodward reportedly gave him one of these watches, while other accounts concur that it was a gift from Woodward. They claim that Newman received the watch earlier, while winning was being filmed in 1968 or 1969. Because they were hard to sell, just 1 in 20 Daytonas are believed to have had the exotic dial, and only 2,000 to 3,000 of these exotic dial types were ever produced. When first released, the original Daytona watches were not in high demand and were relatively cheap, $210 plus tax, but later developed a cult following and fetched significant sums at auction. I will now list some of the Daytona series now sold in stores. Oyster, 40mm, white gold, yellow gold, Everose gold, oyster steel. Explain this after talking about model. The chronograph features of the Daytona are operated by pushers that, when not in use, screw down like the winding crown to provide waterproofness to 100 meters. The chronograph may be started, stopped, or reset with a single tap that results in a clear, crisp click that was honed using cutting-edge technology. So that's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed learning more about Rolex in depth. I will be posting more films like this in the future. In the meantime, Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You can also check out my other videos. Until then, stay smiling, pursue your interest, and follow your passion.